This year I was diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because I've worked for so long to hide my brokenness from everyone that's around me, because I've chosen not to talk about the drama and the trauma of my past. There are so many challenges that people are facing right now, and I want to make sure that people know that there is hope. So I've decided to dedicate the rest of my life to making sure that people have access to resources. I want to tell you that there is still hope for the conversation, that I have chosen to heal out loud, and you can do the same thing. Hi. My name is Sherry James, and I am the Chief Experience Officer for 2020 Lives Changed Incorporated. I am a mother, I am a speaker, I'm an author, a leadership coach. I do a lot of things that I would love to say that I do very well. People know a lot of things about me. I've, over the years, amassed a very amazing network. I call them my tribe. Of people that have supported my work in leadership and public speaking and encouraged me to do even more of what I love to do, which is this. Of course, with the year 2020 being as challenging as it's been, I've had the opportunity to spend more time on my own healing. So the title of today's talk is You Can't See My Brokenness. And I want to mention that all of the things that I've worked for so hard. My daughter is 31 and a cardiac ICU nurse. She's doing great work, saving lives as an essential worker amid this pandemic. My 13-year-old son is in 7th grade. He is working hard to keep his grades up to A's and A+, which are my standards and his dad's standards. But he also plays basketball and football and the euphonium and the band. So from the outside, it looks as if I have it all together. It looks as if my life is perfect. However, in January of the year 2020, this year that we've all struggled with so many difficulties, this year I was diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because I've worked for so long to hide my brokenness from everyone that's around me, because I've chosen not to talk about the drama and the trauma of my past and growing up. No one knew that my dad committed suicide when he was only 37 years old. I was 7. I have very few memories of my father other than him being dressed up in his Air Force uniform and the pictures that I had seen of him and the fact that everyone always said how brilliant he was. He was such a smart man that chose to end his life by suicide. I was ashamed of that. There's a significant amount of what's called survivor's guilt that I dealt with. As the only child, I felt surely his suicide had to be my fault. In a very similar fashion, my mother, who found him and had to deal with the fact that her husband had taken his life, she struggled. She did not have access to resources that were necessary. And so by the time I was 27, so 20 years after my father's passing, my mother died in very similar circumstances. At 27, I had a child already. I was really ready to start my life and do something good with my life for my daughter. So I chose not to talk about the death of my father or the death of my mother. I began working for companies like AT&T, where I got to travel and teach, and I learned things about human resources, for example, and access to mental health support and all kinds of things from a corporate America perspective. And I blossomed in that environment. I grew as a leader. I learned to continue to teach and give back, develop and coach people who were younger than me. It became my passion. I met Simon Sinek several years ago at a conference. And if you know anything about him, one of his favorite questions is, "What's your why?" And I remember meeting him and I said, "Hi, I'm Sherry James, and I'm very excited to tell you that I am my self-proclaimed millennial mentor. I am passionate about changing the lives of the next generation of leaders, coaching them and developing them into stellar leaders and servant leaders." And he said, "Why? What's your why? Why are you so passionate about the next generation?" And I said, "Well, it's because I have children that are, very far apart. I have children in the next 2 generations, so of course I'm going to be interested in investing in those 2 generations at least. And he said, I don't think that's your why. You should go back and do more work. And I did. I went to therapy. I had quite a few people who decided to not be a part of my circle because I was very vocal about me needing help. I wanted to go find out what my why was. Why was I so passionate about being that person for younger people in the corporate environment? Through therapy and through conversations, we started to discuss my past. We started to discuss the trauma that the impact of my father's suicide had on my life, even though no one could see it. No one knew that it existed. No one knew my story. All they knew was that I was happy to help others, that I was loving to serve on other people from a work perspective. No one knew the trauma that created the person that I am today. So I want to say thank you to Simon for motivating me, for finding my true why, because in that work, I uncovered my passion for being an advocate for all of those who need help and resources when it comes to mental health. Look at this year. This year, suicides are obviously through the roof. Domestic violence, child abuse. There are so many challenges that people are facing right now. And I want to make sure that people know that there is hope. There are resources available. I actually had the opportunity to meet with a gentleman by the name of Shiva, who created an application 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, when he still lived in India. The whole goal for this app was to make sure that people in India who were struggling with mental illness or mental health issues, he wanted to make sure they had access to mental health care providers from the privacy of their own home or from the privacy of their own phones. Our partnership started in the end of 2019 when I built our nonprofit, which is 2020 Lives Changed Incorporated, when I was launching Phoenix Speaks, when I wrote my book. But that partnership has proven to be invaluable this year when all lives changed. The COVID-19 pandemic, the racial tensions, the United States presidential election, these things are enough to make sure that anyone is stressed out and possibly depressed and possibly anxious. So I've decided to dedicate the rest of my life to making sure that people have access to resources like the MediGuru app, or even if you think yoga is your thing, there are places that offer yoga as a form of healing from post-traumatic stress disorder. So as I stand here, not on the type of stage that I'm used to, but as I stand here in front of you with the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, being considered disabled from a working perspective, I want to tell you that there is still hope for the conversation, that I have chosen to heal out loud, and you can do the same thing, or you can choose to do it in silence and be private. And there are so many resources that are available for all of us right now. And so I want to make sure that our organization is a platform and it is a catalyst for change going forward, so we can know that even though you can't see my brokenness, I will be honest enough with you to tell you that I am working through it. I'm healing out loud continuously. I'm teaching others to do the same thing. I am passionate about making sure that my team, my family, my friends, those that I surround myself with, understand the importance of dealing with mental illness before it's too late. My goal is to make sure that someone hears my voice, even if it's just one, and they choose to seek help and not take their own lives. Because though you can't see my brokenness, it doesn't show up on my resume. You probably won't see it on my website. But in order to be a true leader and a good leader of people, I've got to be honest about the healing that I'm dealing with day after day, that I expect to deal with for the rest of my life. But I also want to be a role model for those of us at the end of this pandemic, at the end of all of the trauma that we're dealing with in this year. I want to be the person, and we want to be the organization that makes sure that you know that there is hope. And your brokenness is not permanent. You can heal from that just as you would a cut on your finger. It just requires a lot of help, and it requires a lot of people who believe the same. So in closing, I want you to please find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Sherry James PMP. Please let us know how we can help serve you in this very difficult time and the times that we will face after that. And for more inspiring talks, please do follow Josh Talks USA, and I'll see you there. Thanks. Bye.
Tell us what you think about this video, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.